All right, let's talk Rams Eagles. So the Eagles are currently 6-point favorites against the Rams. The Eagles also beat the Rams earlier this year, but as we all know, that doesn't mean that the Rams can't pull off an upset. Let's talk about the many things to talk about. There's a lot to get into with this one. First, we're going to go over some numbers, kind of familiarize ourselves with these two teams. We're going to talk Rams offense versus Eagles defense in this video. In the next video I make, I will do the other side and then give my final score predictions. So be on the lookout for that. That should be out tomorrow. But yeah, let's just get into it, and then I will show some film after the numbers, and then give my thoughts on how I think this will go on this side of the ball at the end of the video. First, as always, I'm going to start off with this page. This is where each team ranks in specific positional categories according to PFF grades. So you see, the Rams have the 19th ranked passing, but as we all know, Matthew Stafford in the playoffs is a different animal. Do not treat him like a mediocre quarterback, or you're going to have a bad time, even if he had some down games this season. Also had some really good games this season. So don't just say, easy quarterback to play against. No. This is Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. The receiving core, really good for the Rams. A lot of that is Puka Nacua, who has them as the third-ranked receiving core, going up against the highest-ranked coverage unit. Again, the Eagles are great across the board. Number 1 coverage, number 2 pass rush, number 2 run defense. Now, on paper, you're thinking number 2 pass rush against number 30 pass blocking unit. That feels like a concern. I will mention, though, that people brought this up when I made my video last week, and they should have brought it up. It's something I should have mentioned in my last video with the Rams, is that just because it says 30th pass blocking does not necessarily mean that that is what you should expect going into the playoff game, because they've had many injuries. Now, they also have some of their offensive linemen. In fact, most of their offensive linemen are better run blockers than pass blockers, especially someone like Kevin Dotson, who's, according to PFF, has been kind of an elite level run blocker, but an okay pass blocker. Steve Avila, also someone who is better in run blocking than pass blocking. Actually, the entire interior is better at run blocking than pass blocking. So that's worth noting as well. We're going to get more into the offensive line in a second. But yeah, the good news is they're good at run blocking. 5th highest graded run blocking unit. PFF doesn't love their backs, and they have a lot of injuries now in the backfield, so that's another factor. Going up against the second highest ranked run defense. Again, there is no hole in this Eagles defense. You're going to have to maybe play to your strengths. We'll get into maybe some individual matchups that could work, though. But first, let's start off with the offensive line, because I think that's very fascinating. So these are the projected 5 starters for the Rams. These are the 5 guys who played against the Minnesota Vikings last week. It's from left to right, top down. So left tackle, left guard, guard, right tackle. There's an asterisk next to Rob Havenstein's name. That's because he did not play the last time these two teams played each other. And that's obviously worth noting, because you see the number next to each of these players. That's where they ranked in terms of PFF grades according to their position. Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein, very good. Kevin Dotson, very good. Although, as I mentioned, elite level run blocker. The pass blocking still good, but not what he is as a run blocker. Bo Limmer and Steve Avila are both much better run blockers than pass blockers. And Bo Limmer, keep in mind, is a center, so that's 33rd out of, I believe it's out of 40 eligible centers who have enough snaps to qualify. So, 35th for Steve Avila seems pretty solid, because that's out of 75. Limmer is out of 40. So that's the weakness, is the left guard and the center. That's where you can attack if you're the Eagles, and, definitely they will try and do that. I was curious, so I wanted to see how did they perform last time these two teams played each other. These were their PFF grades in that game, which I get. PFF grades, not everyone's cup of tea. I just wanted to see how it went. One thing worth noting is, so Warren McClendon at the bottom, he was the right tackle in that game. He did okay, 64.1 grade. That's not horrible, although he did have one really particular play where he got beat really badly for an immediate sack. But other than that, he did okay. Kevin Dotson was good as always. Bo Limmer and Steve Avila were not, especially Avila was under 40. That's something that you think that the Eagles are probably going to try and exploit. Alaric Jackson was still good. So even improving the right tackle, that might not be enough. So when we get into film, we'll talk about it more. But let's continue with the numbers, and then we'll put a pin in this, and then we'll get back to it. First, Matthew Stafford against the Blitz. We saw this against Minnesota, who loves the Blitz. They essentially just stopped blitzing because Stafford's so good at picking up the Blitz. These are his numbers against the Blitz. You see that his PFF grade only goes up a little bit, but the passer rating goes up a ton. 14 points when he is blitzed versus not blitzed. The Eagles don't blitz a lot. In fact, they're 6th least in football when it comes to blitz rate. So that's a way that you can maybe say that's an advantage for the Eagles. They're not going to play into Stafford's hand. While the Vikings had to drop back and play zone, which they're not great at, the Eagles do that by design. They are good at that. And so Stafford might not have the exact same success. And if he does have success, it's going to have to be in different ways. As for the receivers, so this is how each receiver, not each receiver, but the key receivers perform against man and against zone for the Los Angeles Rams. You see that the stats you're looking at are PFF grade and yards per route ran. Puka Nacua is great regardless. There's no slowing Puka Nacua down. Cooper Kupp, though, again, PFF has him as a sub 60 grade against man, but a 78 grade when he's going up against zone. Still just as good as ever when he's against zone, but he used to be, Puka Nacua numbers against man as well. Not really this season, so what's to make of that? Is he getting older, or is it just a coincidence? Who knows? Also worth noting, Tutu Atwell actually does well against zone coverage. So there's guys who can beat the Eagles' zone coverage. There absolutely are, so that's definitely worth noting. Let's do this as well. Let's look at the box score the last time these teams played each other, which was Week 12. You see that Matthew Stafford had an okay offensive day, and the offense was not horrible the last time these two teams played. Puka Nacua, who is their superstar, had 117 yards and 9 catches. Cooper Kupp had 60 yards and a touchdown as well. And hey, Tutu Atwell, we just mentioned him. He had 30 yards as well. So there's that. I don't know how much Tutu Atwell we're going to get. He played 1 snap last week, but it's something to keep note of. But again, Nacua and Kupp are the two guys that you look at for the Rams. The running stats actually weren't horrible. Stafford had a 15-yard run. Kyron Williams had 16 carries for 72 yards. Blake Corum also had a carry for 5 yards. The fact that they can run the ball is certainly a good thing. I was curious to see what the weather report would be going into that game, and there is, it's a high of 38, and the game starts at 3. So, as I learned in elementary school, and I'm assuming is the case, is that it's the hottest of the day at 2. So, could be okay there. 30s, that should still allow you to throw the ball, but you're going to want a ground game. But I don't know if it's going to be one of those games where you just can't throw the ball. There is a 34% chance of rain, though. So if it's raining or even snowing towards the end and maybe a gross game there, the fact that the Rams can run the ball could be a good thing. They ran the ball well last time. I think they could do an okay job this time, and we'll get into it more when we get into the film. One last thing I want to talk about. We're going a long time here with the numbers, but one last thing I want to talk about before we finally get into film. This page right here, which might be a little bit hard to read, but this is the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. And not all these players are healthy right now, but you see how many players they have that have really good PFF grades. Now, Jalen Carter's snap count he basically plays every snap at this point. So, it's harder to be 17th ranked when you're getting that kind of volume. But do not think that if you can get Jalen Carter out of the game, you're good. They can hit you everywhere. And in fact, that's part of their strategy. Like this. Here, let's finally get into the film. This is what I mean. You see Jalen Carter, that's where he is on the field. This is actually something that the Rams used to do all the time, which is, so you have Carter, you're thinking, okay, Steve Avila is the left guard, he's not quite as good, so let's put our best guy on their worst guy, right? Well, you don't necessarily have to do that. You could go this way and have him go on the stronger guard, Dotson, who's good. But that's what the Rams are doing. They're going to have their center help out the right guard because it's Jalen Carter, right? I mean, you don't want to leave him one-on-one. I don't care what the situation is. But this now gives you another one-on-one matchup. And as I mentioned, the Eagles have so many other good defensive linemen that if Avila is having to block one-on-one, that's not good. Or you have your center block, on the other side anyway, but now you're giving Jalen Carter a one-on-one matchup. And as much as you trust your right guard, he's not an elite level pass blocker. He's an all right level pass blocker, and against Carter, that's not going to go well. Now on this play, it was funny where they did get pressure on the inside, but Stafford navigated it well, and actually that was his 15-yard run. So Stafford might have to just navigate the pocket well, and he is so good at that do not count that aspect out. But there should be some interesting kind of things going on there. One thing that you have to wonder as well, though, and why the running game might be so important for the Rams is the Eagles, they like to play a lot of two safety deep coverages. That's something that they'll definitely do, which means you can run the ball. And especially if the pass rush is getting home, one way to slow down the pass rushers is don't let them pass rush right away. Have them think that maybe it's going to be a running play. They can't quite get into their move as quickly. As you see here, so Matthew Stafford's going to hand the ball off to Kyren Williams, who gets up to the next level right here. Now the defensive backs for the Eagles have to try and make a tackle, and here they don't. Kyren Williams makes a nice move. If they can run the ball effectively, you don't even need runs like this. Can you just get consistent runs? That could be a big deal. You help out Matthew Stafford by not having him be under pressure all the time, and it can not only help because, hey, just getting those yards is good, but it can then help schematically wise. Like heading over here, I said schematically wise. That can't be. There's got to be a better way to phrase that, but whatever. We're going to roll with it. We're going to move on. It's zone coverage here. You see the concept on the screen. Really, Nakua's route going more over the middle is the one that you like. I mean, Sean McVay, to be honest, is just elite at, if he knows what coverage you're playing, scheming stuff up and being able to make this work. Watch. So Stafford's going to run this play action. He looks over. Nakua does get into a gap in coverage right here. So this is, really well done by the entire Rams offense. Stafford makes that throw. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you might be sitting here saying, well, what do the Eagles even do then? If the Rams can run the ball effectively and they can, scheme stuff up, these play actions can work, do the Eagles even have a chance? Well, yes. The biggest thing they can do is try to get the Rams in as many obvious passing situations as possible. A situation like this, 3rd and 4, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be man coverage, which the Eagles will do some as well. I mentioned they like to play zone, but on obvious passing situations, they will sometimes drop back and play man. I think that might not be a horrible strategy, especially if you can try and take Nakua out of the game here, because you have a concept designed to beat this coverage, actually, if you're the Rams. It's Cooper Kupp's route. And it is worth mentioning, 3rd and 4, you could, in theory, run here, but, the reason why you don't want to do this on first down is it's not a great coverage to stop the run, but you can stop the, stop the pass here. You're going to see Stafford's going to take the snap. He rolls out, fires towards Kupp, but that's just good defense right there. Nothing really Kupp could do, and because of that, pass is deflected, it's incomplete. So if you can do that, I mean, that's your key to success, but of course, the Rams have a counter to that as well. It's this play where it's going to be Puka Nacua one-on-one on the outside. Nacua is an elite wide receiver. I don't know if he fully gets credit for that. He is an elite level wide receiver, and if you're not treating him as such, you're making a mistake. Here he is, one-on-one. As you see, he's going to run this route really effectively, cuts back towards the sideline right here. You see that Darius Slay is trying to keep up with him, and I mean, this is really good corner. This is the guy who you expect to see, Nacua on at times. As I mentioned, Nacua had a good game last time. You see he's able to make that catch. Nice catch, too. Nice throw from Stafford. I mean, again, Darius Slay's a good corner. Nacua and Stafford are just on another level. And so we did see last week Slay had an interception when Jordan Love tried him, but that was on, I think it was Dontavian Wicks who ran that route. Nakua is just a different animal. He just is. So in conclusion, how do I see this going for Stafford and the Rams? Do I think that their offense can get it done against this really good Eagles defense? Again, I know a lot of the clips I showed were positive clips. The first time the Rams did all right against them. They really did. On paper, they can run the ball. They can run these play actions off of that. And of course, I mean, the Eagles did have stops off of those plays as well. Most of these clips I showed weren't guys getting wide open. They were contested plays that the Rams were hitting on, and that's part of the issue. Is if it is raining and it becomes harder to hit on these plays, do you have more options? The other thing is, do we just see the Eagles make more of an effort to stop the run? Although if you do that, makes it easier for Nacua, right? That's why this Rams offense is one I really like, because again, I think there are better offenses in the league, and there are definitely teams that are better at specific things. Like, for example, the Eagles are way better at running the ball than the Rams are. But what I like about this Rams team is they're good at everything. There is no weakness on really either of these units in my opinion, except for the Rams' interior offensive line when it comes to pass blocking. That's really the only key weakness I see. So the Rams, if you try and play to stop the run, they could throw to Nakua over the top or even over the middle. If you try and make sure you defend over the top, they can run the ball on you and they can throw underneath as well. If you try to blitz, Stafford's going to read it. There is no weakness with this Rams offense, but there's also no weakness with this Eagles defense. They're really good as well. So final predictions for this video. The Rams offense on average scores 2.06 points per drive. The Eagles give up just 1.69 points per drive. That's a really good number for the Eagles. The first time, though, was a good game for the Rams offense. It was a bad game for the defense, which we'll talk about tomorrow, but it was a really good game for the Rams offense. They had 2.22 points per drive against this Eagles defense is very good. My guess is something relatively similar. I do think if it is raining and it is cold, I think that would favor the Eagles defense as it usually favors defense in those games. So that's the concern. Hey, that's home field advantage, right? Why you try so hard in the regular season. But I think this could go okay. I really do for the Rams. I don't think that they're gonna dominate. I mean, I guess I would say I can honestly see anything happening. I could see them scoring 38. I could see them scoring 38 and losing. I could see them scoring 8 and losing. I think that there is so many different ways this game could go because both of these teams are so good. But there should be some really interesting matchups. So I like to make these videos kind of as a what to look out for heading into the game. So what do you look out for right away? You see what the Eagles do. Are they going to just drop back and play their zone coverage again and hope they can stop them? And I think really, if the Eagles can stop the run early on, I think it could be tough sledding for the Rams. I think they could be in trouble if they can't run the ball. I think they will, though. They're going to try and run the ball, then run some play actions off of it. Might have to have longer drives, and you gotta avoid the penalties too, because that killed them in the Vikings game on some drives. Gotta avoid those penalties if you're going to try and have long drives. But other than that, yeah, I think this could go okay for the Rams. Will it be enough to win, though, is the question. Well, you'll have to stay tuned to my next video where I will give my final predictions there. So be on the lookout for that. Should be out tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.